welcome to Midterm Review. I'll be going through the first section, which is the first 16 problems, and then we'll continue on with other sections shortly. All right, so let's just dig right into this. And the first question is asking about the completing the square method. And what we have to do, it kind of shows the first step here. It takes your x squared plus 7x minus 11 equals 0. They do the first step by adding 11 to both sides. So once we get that first step out of the way, we're going to be adding a number to both sides. And that number here is determined, this number here, is determined by taking the b term, that b number, which is the coefficient of the x, taking half of it, and then squaring that. And this is simply 7 squared, or 49, over 2 squared, 4. We would add that 49 over 4 to both sides. In this question, all they're asking is which number did he add. And in our case, it's just that 49 over 4. So that is choice number 2. All right, next question here. Number 2. So number 2 is asking a very similar question. They just want you to go through, well, pretty much the same steps. They just want you to know which one of these choices here, along here, match up with the correct step. So if we take our x squared minus 6x minus 25 equals 0, the first thing we want to do is we want to set it equal, we want to actually move this constant over to the right, in this case by adding 25. So this is an x squared, So this is an x squared minus 6x plus some number equals 25 plus that same number. And the number we're adding to both sides, here and here, is just we're taking this coefficient of x, which is negative 6, we're taking half of it, and we're squaring it. So this is negative 3 squared, or 9, and that's the number we add to both sides. And in this case, that's simply choice 1. We will always add a number, so it's not going to be, in this case, choice 2 or choice 4. When we square this number here, and we're always going to get a positive number. So anything here that has a choice that's negative with completing the square will not be correct. Okay? All right. Let's see. Now we're on number 3. Number 3, I would go right to your graphing calculator and plug that right in. Just straightforward right in the calculator, and that would be choice 2. Okay, the I here is the second, and then the decimal key. Next question, question number 4. Now, question number 4, it does ask us to give our answer in simplest a plus bi form. And this means that there will be a real part which doesn't have an I, and then there'll be a number there that has an I. So we're just basically going to take these 4, and we're going to combine like terms. However, to make things easier for us to combine the like terms, we must evaluate I to these different powers. I to the first, right here, is just I. I to the 8th, though, right over here, that's right there, is I to the 8th in your calculator. That would be math number. So we're going to the math key. The print is not working. We're going to the math key. We're going to the NUM, and then we're going to I part. And you will type in I to the 8th power, and it will give you 1. Now be careful here that your 1's and I's don't get mistaken here. This is a 1 plus 6x. We have I cubed right here. Now I cubed in the calculator would give you negative I. So there's a negative I here, plus 2y, and we have a spot for I to the 4th, and I to the 4th is equal to 1 as well. So there's a 1 here. So as we're moving along, 4xi plus 5. The 4xi has an I, and this 6x times negative I, which is negative 6i, has an I. I'm just going to group these together here so you can see. I'm bringing the negative 6xi here, and then I'm going to add the 5y, and then the 2y. Okay, so what I've done is just group these so that I'm adding like terms. Now the one thing I have to watch out for is they wanted it in a plus bi form, so I'm going to take my terms without the I, which is the 7y, and then 4xi minus 6xi is negative 2xi. So my answer is right here, 7y minus 2xi. All right, next, number 5. All right, number 5, straightforward, right in the calculator, and number 5 would give us negative 15 minus 6i, and that would be straight in the calculator, choice number 1. I'm just going to go down on the left column, so I'm just going to get to number 7. Now, number 7, again, is a product of two binomials that just have a different middle sign. These are called conjugates, and when you multiply conjugates, you will end up with a real number. So that means that my choice is either 3 or 4. And if I can plug it straight in the calculator. I can even do a tabular here if you want to see that. And this would be 3 plus radical 5 and 3 minus radical 5. And so we have 9 plus 3 rad 5. We have minus 3 rad 5. And then we have a negative rad 5 times rad 5 is 5. So in our case here, we get 9 minus 5, which gives us 4. And negative 3 rad 5 plus 3 rad 5 give us 0. So our answer is just the 4. So we want to make sure that we get a problem like this correct. It's choice 4. We're careful not to pick choice 3 to mess up the signs here. All right. So next question here, number 9. The number 9, when we want to simplify a rational expression, the easiest way is just to go and factor. So when we factor here in the numerator, we want two numbers that multiply to negative 6 and add to negative 1. Now, those two numbers are going to be negative 3 and positive 2. And in the denominator, we want them to multiply to 6, positive 6, which means the signs are the same, and in this case, add to negative 5. So that means the signs are the same. They both must be minus, and in our case, I think we get a negative 3 and a negative 2. Now what we have is we have two common factors that they reduce to 1, and that gives us our answer as x plus 2 over x minus 2, or choice 1. All right, so here we go. We're over here, we're going up to number 6. Number 6 may look a little tricky. The big thing is you want to be able to write it down correctly at the start of the problem. So I am going to write 2 minus 3 radical x. I'm going to write it twice because I see that it's squared. We can do, just to show you a different method here, we can just distribute 2 times a 2, which is 4, 2 times a negative 3 radical x. I'm going to take the negative 3 rad x times a 2, which is negative 6 rad x. And this one you have to be careful. Negative 3 times negative 3 is a positive 9, and a rad x times rad x is just x. These middle two terms combine to give us choice 3. All right, next question, number 8. We're again going simplest form. Now, if something is not in simplest form in one of the choices, we can eliminate that choice right away. In this case, they're all in simplest form. So we're factoring again. Two numbers that multiply to negative 15 that add to negative 2. In this case, add to negative 2, that would mean negative 3 and negative 5 and positive 3. And there's the greatest common factor down here of an x, and that would be an x plus 3. So when we go to simplify common factors, these reduce to 1, giving us x minus 5 over x. Be careful not to reduce these two x's. Although they look like it'd be nice and easy to reduce those, this is not mathematically correct, so we shouldn't do that. So our answer is choice 2. There we go. All right, so moving along here, number 10, all right. So here we go with systems. There's a couple questions here with solving systems. Now, we can handle things differently when we have a multiple choice question. In a multiple choice question, we can simply plug the choices in to both of the equations. And this 0, 5 plugged in for x and y here, if it makes both equations true, then this is called a solution. And we can check both of the points. And if one works, great, then we can eliminate, 3 and 4. If this doesn't work, then we can eliminate 1 and 2. And I'll show you that at the start. Then we'll get into some systems where we're solving them algebraically and showing work. So right now, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to plug in 0, 5. I'm going to see if that works. So I'll show you here that I'm trying 0, 5. And I want to make sure that even though the y comes first here, right there, that I put the 5 there, minus 0 equals 5. In this case, that checks. We then have the second equation right here, and that would be 5 equals 0 squared plus 5, and that checks as well. So that means that 0, 5 is one of the choices, or a solution to the system. That means that these two choices that don't include 0, 5 are wrong. And now we're down to 2 choices. So I'm going to try 1, 6. If it works, it's choice 1. If it doesn't work, it's probably choice 2. So that means that 6 minus 1 equals 5. Well, that checks. And that 6 equals 1 squared plus 5. Well, that checks as well. And that means that choice 1 is our solution. So this is one way we can deal with just checking solutions in multiple choice questions. The other option I'll take you through right here is that we solve one of the equations for x or y. In fact, they're both solved for y. So in this case, we can set them equal to each other. And when we set them equal to each other, we have a quadratic equation. And I want to keep this positive x squared here on the left. So I'm going to subtract x and subtract 2. And we will get a quadratic equation, x squared minus 5x plus 4 equals 0. Now, some of you don't like the way I write the 4's, so I'll change it for you. See, I just changed it there for some reason. But in this case, we can factor. And we want two numbers to multiply to 4, and add to negative 5. The signs are the same, and they're minus. So we will get x minus 4, is that better? And x minus 1, and there we go. So what we have is we have x equals 4 as a solution to this equation, x equals 1. Some people might immediately go to choose choice 1 because we have a 4 and a 1. However, what we found is just the x coordinate of the 2 points of intersection. So since we know we have 2 points, we can eliminate choice 1 and 2. And basically, we know that it's going to be choice 3 because those are the only option where we have a 4 is the x and a 1 is the x. If we wanted to find these corresponding y's, the 6 and the 3, we would just go and plug this x equals 4 into, let's say, this equation. Either equation works. And we'd get y equals 4 plus 2 or 6. And we get y equals 1 plus 2 or 3. So we have choice number 3. Let's take a look at what we have left here. All right, so just moving over, we're up to number 11. Hopefully we're going so well. All right, moving along. Zeros just indicate, we solve or find zeros or roots or x-intercepts when we set our factors equal to 0, once we get a linear factor. So in this case, we have 4 factors, x minus 7, x minus 9, x minus 9 again, and then x. And don't forget about the x. When we set these equal to 0, I'm just showing the work here, x minus 9 equals 0, x minus 9 equals 0, oops, and x equals 0. We solve for x, we get x equals 7, which is a 0, or we get x equals 9, x equals 9 again, and x equals 0. So the zeros in this case are x equals 7, x equals 9, and x equals 0. We know there are two zeros here, add 9, so we're just going to list it once. Okay? What degree is d of x? Well, what we do is if we multiplied this expression all together, we'd have an x to the first, another x to the first, another x to the first, and another x to the first. And if we add those exponents, we would get 4. So we would have an x to the fourth term in this d of x, so we would call this a fourth degree. All right, so we're doing well here, and here we are. All right, so we have some pretty easy factoring, we hope. And whenever you see an x to the fourth, as long as there's an x squared in them as the middle term, we're in good shape. All we're doing here is we're just going to put an x squared and an x squared in the first position, because if we were to multiply these, we would get the x to the fourth that we want. We think of two numbers that multiply to positive 25 and add to negative 26. Well, that means that the signs are the same and they're both a minus, and 1 and 25, or negative 1 and negative 25 would add to the negative 26. However, this is good, but when it says factor completely, or will always factor completely, we can break up the x squared minus 1 into x plus 1 and x minus 1, and the x squared minus 25 and x plus 5 and x minus 5 in either order here. So this right here is the factoring that is completely factored. Next one, in B, we have 4 terms. So in 4 terms, we use factor by grouping. What we do is we take a greatest common factor out of the first two, which is x squared. When we divide x cubed by x squared, we get an x, and 7x squared divided by 7x by x squared is a plus 7. Be careful here, we have a minus sign, so we need to factor out a negative 1, because there's nothing else we can factor out, or nothing common to negative x and negative 7. And when we divide a negative by negative, we get a positive, and we've got a positive here. So in this case, we have whatever's in the parentheses multiplied by whatever is not in the parentheses, which is x squared minus 1. And then x squared minus 1, we still must factor. So that's x minus 1, x plus 1. So in this case, we have 3 different factors. All right. So, oops, that wasn't meant to be. All right. Number 14, I'd throw it in the calculator, make sure I have my answer, and then I'd go and make sure I can get that answer through the work. So this could be a straightforward tabular, if you would like, and this would be 12 minus 3i. This is negative 3 plus 5i. And when I multiply 12 and negative 3, I get negative 36. Negative 3 times negative 3 is positive 9i. 12 and 5 is 60i. And negative and positive is negative 15i squared. Now we remember that I squared is equal to negative 1. So what we'll have is negative 36 plus, it'll be 69i, and we'll get minus 15 times I squared, which is negative 1. This becomes positive 15. This becomes a negative 21 plus 69i. So, we're moving along here. We're up to number 15. Now, number 15, let's see, we'll just move the page up here a little bit. In these cases, we can basically just use quadratic formula, probably the easiest way to go. It's given to you on the reference sheet. So, just remembering the quadratic formula, in this case is x equals negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac. That's all over 2a. You just have to make sure that everything is brought over to the same side. So I'm going to just do that for b right now. I'm going to get 4x squared plus 2x minus 7 equals 0. Then I can pick out my a, b, and c, and we're good from there. So the first example, a is 3, b is 4, c is 2. It's the coefficient in front of the term, the x squared, and so on, and not the x. So what we have here is x equals negative, and b, which is 4, plus or minus, and you can see that I'm using parentheses here, because I don't want to make a mistake. And let's see. So this is b squared, so it's 4 squared minus 4a is 3, and c is 2, and a is 3. So I get x equals negative 4 plus or minus, and I'm going to just enter this 4 squared minus 4 times 3 times 2 all in the calculator right away. And in this case, I'm going to get 16 minus 24, or negative 8. And this is all over 6. Now, let me erase part of this for a second. All right, so what we have here is, I want to be careful to put everything over 6. So I'm going to have negative 4 over 6 plus or minus. The square root of negative 8 is going to be 2i rad 2. And that's over 6. So I'm going to run out of a little room here, but we'll try this here. And what I get is negative 2/3 plus or minus I rad 2 over 3. And this is x equals, and that's my answer to part A. Now, in this case, we have complex roots. There's 2 of them. My discriminant was negative, so that really works out nicely here. Let's see what we can do. So I'm going to try to move this over, and we'll work with letter B here. So I'm going to take this equation, and then I'm going to go and plug it in. X equals negative b, b is 2, plus or minus b squared minus 4ac all over 2a, and b squared, b is 2, 4a is 4c is negative 7, and this is 4. So I get x equals negative 2 plus or minus, and I have, well, I'm going to plug it all together. But this is going to be a number like, I think it's 116. Excuse me. It is a 16 times 7, and then added to whatever we have here. Little calculations. Okay, that's radical 116. And this is all over 8. Now, rad 116, you might not know. I happen to know that it is 2 rad 29. So it's rad 4 and rad 29. Rad 4 comes out as a 2. I'm going to split these over 8. So in this case, I'm going to have a final answer of negative 1/4 plus or minus rad 29 over 4. So this is what we're looking at here. Now, 2 answers. Looks good. Hope it's right. All right, so we're going to go back and let's see what we're doing here. All right. We use a lot of time here. I'm going to pause it here. I'll start a new video shortly. So this is 1 to 15. Good luck. Watch it often. Good luck Friday.